Is Nancy Pelosi's gavel in jeopardy? 17 Democrats now calling for new leadership in the House as Congress is officially back in session. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Sandra Smith.
We're back in session, too, you might
Yes,
say.
sir. Good morning.
I'm John Scott, in for Bill Hemmer. House Republicans nailing down their leadership team. Now it's up to the Democrats to decide who will lead their side. And that brings us to the Newsroom news feed.
Congress is back in session, and the jockeying for position and political power is well underway.
There's a bit more drama in the House as Democrats replace Republicans in control.
In terms of the next House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi wants that job again.
Let us just find our common ground as to how we go forward.
The Democrats trying to get their head around leadership and what happens.
There's a lot of pushback against Nancy Pelosi becoming the next speaker.
Nancy Pelosi, whether you love her or hate her, she has helped deliver the House and keep everything together.
I support Nancy Pelosi 1,000,000%.
I'm a yes vote all the way through the end, but everybody's going to make their individual decisions.
But there are some Democrats who suggest Pelosi has a numbers problem.
It's clear I'm not going to be voting for the current leader. I believe we need change, so I'm supporting change.
We're going to bring change. The people want change, and this is the establishment versus change.
It's a question of, for the Democrats, you want to reward past service or you want to set a new tone for the future.
And they deserve Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, but I sure don't want to see it.
Well, really, that's the drama on Capitol Hill.
And that's the news feed. Now let's go to Mike Emanuel, live on Capitol Hill. Mike?
John, good morning. The drama in terms of future congressional leadership is with House Democrats and Nancy Pelosi's bid to become Speaker again. Fox News has confirmed at least 17 Democrats, some current members, others newly elected, have signed on to a letter saying they will not support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. Tim Ryan from Ohio, Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, Kathleen Rice from New York, and Marcia Fudge from Ohio are some of the current members. The likely next chairman of House Judiciary, a Pelosi ally, was asked this morning if he is absolutely certain Pelosi will be the next speaker.
I'm not 100% certain because I'm not doing the vote count, but I am very confident. Nancy is a battle-tested leader. She maintained message discipline. She marshaled the forces that led us to its great victory in taking back the House.
On the Republican side, Kevin McCarthy easily won election to be the House Republican leader next year. Steve Scalise won unanimous support to continue being the GOP whip. And Liz Cheney of Wyoming will now serve in the number 3 leadership post, a job her father, the former vice president, once held. Cheney jabbed today at the drama on the left.
I'm sure that Minority Leader Pelosi likes the new energy that's coming in. The problem is most of that energy happens to be socialist. So that's certainly not a recipe for success for the nation or certainly for her party.
In the Senate, the top leadership will remain the same, with Mitch McConnell continuing on as majority leader and Chuck Schumer staying on to lead Democrats in the new Congress. The big question, with Democrats running the House and Republicans leading the Senate in the new Congress, is where they will find common ground. John?
It's going to be fun to watch. Mike Emanuel, Capitol Hill. Mike, thanks.
Thank you, Mike. The Florida recount deadline just hours away. 67 counties have until 3 p.m. Eastern time to get their work done as lawsuits complicate things even further. Griff Jenkins is live in Lauderhill, Florida with the latest there. Griff?
Hey, Sandra, it is lawsuit season in South Florida, about a half a dozen of them playing out today. A big one, a federal judge ruling late last night that some voters may be able to fix some ballots that have been rejected because of discrepancies with their signature. Mark Elias, the attorney for Senator Nelson, saying this in a tweet: big victory in our Florida signature mismatch lawsuit. Federal court extends deadline for voters to cure their rejected ballots until Saturday at 5 p.m. Per the court, quote, disenfranchisement of approximately 5,000 voters based on signature mismatch is a substantial burden. The Scott campaign issuing this statement immediately: we are immediately appealing this baseless decision, and we are confident we will prevail in the 11th Circuit. Let's be clear, Bill Nelson's high-priced Washington lawyers went to court to argue against against a process that they previously argued for. Now, let me quickly get to the recount numbers. Up in Palm Beach County, just a little north of here, they're having trouble getting there. It looks like they may not make it. The deadline, of course, in 5 hours at 3 p.m. today. But here in Broward, where there's been so much attention, they were donning blue gloves earlier because they only have 300 ballots to go that were damaged, have to be duplicated, fed into the machines, and then they will be done with a final second recount here. Sandra?
Griff Jenkins in Florida for us. Thank you, Griff.
Griff says it's lawsuit season. It used to be snowbird season, they called it in Florida. For more on all this, let's go to our A-team. Kayleigh McEnany, spokeswoman for the RNC. Maria Harf, former State Department spokeswoman, Fox News analyst, and co-host of Benson and Harf. And Liz Harrington, senior writer for the Washington Free Beacon. Interesting times in the House of Representatives now that, Nancy Pelosi appears to be ready to take the gavel again, but there is a significant amount of opposition. Is she going to weather that?
Well, right now, she doesn't have enough votes to get the speakership back. She will be making the case that she'll be a caretaker speaker. For the next 2 years, she will push more power down to committee chairs, to younger members. And I do think it's time in the Democratic Party for new leadership to step up. I have been critical of Nancy Pelosi, and I do think that she is such a lightning rod for many people in this country. But she also helped win almost 40 seats back in this electoral cycle. And if anyone can herd the cats that are going to be the Progressive Caucus in the House and the more moderate Democrats who won races last Tuesday, honestly, it might be Nancy Pelosi. What I don't want for my party is a really nasty leadership fight as the first thing we do upon taking the House.
That could be shaping up.
We'll see.
We haven't seen this letter yet, but apparently 17 Democrats have signed this. And one of the cases they make is we need new, younger Democratic leadership in the House.
Democrats absolutely need that. And should Nancy Pelosi be a few votes short, President Trump has gratefully said, hey, we'll provide those extra votes for Nancy Pelosi. We'd love to see her
Such
there.
a nice guy.
Right? So, we would love nothing more than to see Nancy Pelosi regain the gavel because, look, she's a 29% approval rating. She will become President Trump's foil. She's very unlikable. She makes gaffes like saying you need to mow the grass to fix the border problem, says it's Armageddon to give American people tax cuts. I mean, these are crazy things that she has said over time, and we would love nothing more than to see her there.
But she's also an incredibly capable leader. I mean, she can twist arms and cut deals like nobody else.
Right. When you strike at the king, you must kill him, right? And I think it's going to be difficult for Democrats, even though there's a lot of centrist Democrats that won their seats promising not to vote for her. But it's one thing when you're making all these promises to voters. It's another thing when you get in there and all the arm twisting begins. So I think Pelosi, she does have a challenge up against her, but she's a very strong leader, and she's really a good fundraiser, too. So there's a lot of time before the vote comes up.
So speaking of broken promises, newly elected Arizona Democrat Senator Kyrsten Sinema, broken promise. She said that shortly before, I believe it was the day before she was elected, that she would not support Chuck Schumer. And then she has. And here she is saying, she says this, it's time for a new approach on both sides of the aisle. Had there been a challenger for a minority leader, I would have considered new leadership and a fresh perspective. She said she wouldn't support him if elected, and then
there were no challengers. You can't vote for nothing against someone that's actually running. And I actually think the Schumer vote was a voice vote. So I'm not actually entirely clear what Kyrsten Sinema did. But it is interesting that Chuck Schumer was elected back to this position. There wasn't any opposition. And I think my party does have a problem writ large about new leadership. The Republicans in the House are very smart. They have term limits for committee chairmanships. That means young leaders get to come into positions of power. They get to show that they're in charge. But I will also say every Republican this cycle ran an ad saying, if my opponent wins, Nancy Pelosi will be speaker. And you know what? Almost 40 of those Republicans lost. So I do think she's unpopular, but I also think we shouldn't overplay that because you know what? Democrats took the House by a ton of seats, and every one of those races, Nancy Pelosi was a factor, and a lot of them went for the Democrats.
Kayleigh, are you as eager to see Chuck Schumer retain his leadership of the Democrats in the Senate as you are to see Nancy Pelosi in the House?
I'm not as eager. I will say that about Chuck Schumer. But you know, what I would note though is that, you know, Kyrsten Sinema, we were making the case at the Republican Party to voters saying this will be someone who's a Chuck Schumer lapdog. Don't listen to what she says on the campaign trail. She will vote lockstep with Chuck Schumer. She's been in Washington precisely one day and is now embracing Chuck Schumer.
By the way, you could throw up the picture of her with Schumer yesterday. I believe we have it.
She could have voted against. She didn't have to say yay.
Written in like
she could have. Hey, she could have run herself. I mean, she voiced no opposition, and on the contrary, sat very cozy with him in his office in that picture you see right there. This is why Joe Donnelly lost his seat, and Heidi Heitkamp and Claire McCaskill. They were Chuck Schumer lapdogs. They betrayed their constituents, and she is doing that on day one.
You know, casting herself as a moderate Democrat to Politico in June, her exact words, "I am not going to vote for him."
There was a very fast reversal, exactly. One day and you're already breaking your promises. And that's the problem Democrats, I think, are going to have when they're trying to hold on to this House majority as well. When you have all these candidates running to the center and moderate, and then you end up just falling right in line. I mean, how are all these House Democrats, new and freshmen, going to vote? With their first vote they have to make, they're going to break a promise and vote for Pelosi.
You have no idea if that's true. I think actually a lot of them
it puts them in a very untenable position.
Or
where
not.
They either
They'll
have
vote against her.
No, but I'm just saying that when you have to win all these seats in close districts that are very moderate, and then you just get back in the Senate and you're obstructionist. So what is you're just another Manchin.
I actually think that Nancy Pelosi will get a serious challenge. And look, Tim Ryan ran last time and he got dozens of votes. So a lot of these
didn't work out very well.
A lot of these new members will probably not break their promise. And I actually think a lot of them, especially the moderates, are much more independent than many of our freshman classes in the past have been.
And the big question is, will the new Democratic-controlled House, will they work with Republicans? Will they work with the president on anything? We spoke to Senator John Barrasso from Wyoming last hour. And speaking of Nancy Pelosi, he had this to say.
If Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in the House want to basically spend all of their time investigating and subpoenaing the administration in an effort to slow it down, they're not going to get cooperation from any of us. I don't know how they're going to make their decisions over there. I know I'm willing to work with people on either side of the aisle as long as it's in the best interest of the American people.
And Kaylee, I know you just wrote a piece on FoxNews.com on bipartisanship.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. And we saw it not once yesterday, but twice. And I argued in my piece that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump in particular have put this administration in the best position to achieve bipartisan reform under the leadership of President Trump. The prison reform that was passed in the House, which will proceed through the Senate, it was the work of Jared Kushner. President Trump signed on to his credit. The Bipartisan Build Act was passed yesterday. That was Ivanka Trump's baby, and basically it changes the way we give aid to developing countries. She's also heralded paid family leave. It's something Democrats have wanted for a long time. It's been in 2 of President Trump's budgets, and there are more. The high cost of prescription drugs. President Trump is a bipartisan president. If, in fact, Nancy Pelosi just comes one step towards us, we can get a lot done.
Well, on criminal justice reform, the question will be whether the Republicans in the Senate can get their act together, because I completely support this bill. I applaud President Trump for his strong stance supporting it yesterday. We have bipartisan senators and congressmen who are supporting this. The question is, Mitch McConnell won't even commit to bringing it up for a vote. You have people like Tom Cotton going all in against this bill.
Cory Booker hasn't announced his support. He's been saying he wants
criminal justice reform is one of those issues, Kaylee, I totally agree, where there's bipartisan support. This should be able
Then
to
where's
pass.
Cory Booker? Where's
Cory Booker's not in the majority. Mitch McConnell's the one who can bring that bill to the floor, and he will not commit to do that.
He wants to have the votes. Once he has the votes, he will bring it.
And they really shouldn't stop at criminal justice reform, but I'm not very optimistic that they will, because here we have a president, it's always been amazing to me, who really is not ideologically tethered to anything. He says his ideology is common sense. And so you have a great opportunity for Democrats, if they actually got in the room, to talk to him, to try to persuade him. And yet they've been in a fantasy world trying to prove he's a Kremlin agent for 2 years.
Marie, you seem to agree on that point.
The problem, though,
that's what they're going to be doing in the House. They're going to be going after
the last
tax
2
returns.
years have been in the majority, and they haven't. Now that they are in the House, they have
they're not going to go for his tax returns. They're not going to try to prove all this nonsense.
Democrats on the House can walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm convinced they can come up with proactive
policies. And Trump's not going to want to play ball when they
And the Democrats now have some power. They were in the minority for the last 2 years. The ball was not in their court. Now it is in the House.
The ball was in their court over DACA.
They're not in the majority. You can't, statistically,
you had Democrats in there in the Senate. They had the meeting and they torpedoed
What this comes down to is Democrats have a choice here. Are they going to deprive the American people of wins that are good for the American people, like paid family leave, simply because they do not want to give President Trump a victory? That's a sad state of affairs. I hope that's not where we're at. I hope they can still work for the American people.
We are going to have to wrap it up for now.
That is an A-team.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
that's
ladies.
For sure.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies. A scathing new report just out on Facebook showing how the social media giant failed to respond to Russian activity on its platform. Charles Payne is here to break all this down for us next.
Also, 59 people dead across the state of California as wildfires level entire communities there. We'll have the latest on recovery efforts. Plus, there's this.
We're afraid of this cover-up, and we're never going to find the true story about all these unanswered questions. And, I mean, we don't want this to happen to another family.
A family desperately searching for answers in the murder of an American tourist in Mexico, their son. Why the parents say they want the FBI to now investigate. They will join us live to tell their...
California fire officials confirm at least 59 people are dead in those devastating California wildfires, and the search for the missing continues. The northern Camp Fire has now burned nearly 9,000 homes. The destroyed town of Paradise facing an uncertain road to recovery.
Now it's just getting worse and worse and worse. There's more evacuees, more people running out of money for hotels, and families, they're staying with people that, they can't stay there forever. And, we tried to get back up to see our houses yesterday, and it's going to be 4 months. So Paradise is gone.
Fires have burned nearly 250,000 acres in that state. Governor Jerry Brown says he's working to streamline the government response.
Looks like a war zone. It is. It's the devastation that only fires of this kind could bring about. I'm issuing an executive order today that will speed up recovery, cut red tape, overcome some regulations and other kind of laws that get in our way, because we have to clean up the debris, bind up our wounds, and get with tomorrow.
Tiny bit of good news. The crews are making gains there. The Camp Fire, 35% contained. The Southern California Woolsey Fire is about 52% contained.
So, new fallout for Facebook. The social media giant pushing back against a New York Times report that says it worked to cover up the platform's role in the spread of Russian disinformation during the 2016 election. I'm going to bring in Charles Payne on this, and first throw this up on the screen to tee this up. This is in their report, Delay, Deny, and Deflect, how Facebook's leaders fought through crisis when Facebook users learned last spring that the company had compromised their privacy in its rush to expand, allowing access to the personal information of tens of millions of people to a political data firm linked to President Trump. Facebook sought to deflect blame and mask the extent of the problem. And when that failed, as the company's stock price plummeted and it faced a consumer backlash, Facebook went on the attack. Charles.
It's a wide-ranging, very long, very researched article, no doubt. And I think it boils down to just a combination of arrogance, chutzpah, and then hubris, if you will, just everything you can think of, where you have this company that was given, that it really is a sort of a fiduciary or custodian of our personal information, falling asleep at the wheel. And it brings back questions. When did they really know about all of the Russian interference, and what did they do about it? If this is true, they did, according to this article, they went on the attack and they went after people like George Soros. They also, what they did was fomented the existing animosities and angers within our own country. And they allowed that to fester, even fan the flames of it, all in an effort to deflect from their own mistakes.
Markets are down today. Facebook is down. Big part of the reason?
A big part of the reason, there's a whole lot of things going on with the markets and interest rates and a strong dollar and anxiety and just also the typical market hijinks. Facebook's certainly one of those 5 or 6 names that led this market up for a long period of time, stumbling big time right now. And you kind of wonder because they do have issues beyond this. Their core audience for the Facebook product itself has flattened. Instagram is beginning to peak. People wonder what the next act is going to be there.
So Facebook has already responded to this very lengthy, as you put it, very detailed, specific New York Times report. They're pushing back against it because it basically details how Sheryl Sandberg and Mark Zuckerberg stumbled during this bumpy past year at the company.
Right.
Remember all the hours of hearings on Capitol Hill, the public display, the public scrutiny of the company and its leadership.
Absolutely. Even the Mark Zuckerberg testimony, which I didn't think was that great. The media sort of said that he did a good job. I didn't think he did a great job, but at least he showed up, right? The CEO from Google did not show up. But that's just it. They sort of shifted blame to Google. They shifted blame to Apple. Today, Open Society, which is a Soros-linked civil rights organization, said what they did was reprehensible. They actually call Facebook a threat to democracy. I think what's really despicable, if it is true, the idea of being in trouble as an organization and being able to sort of deflect by fanning the embedded animosities in this country and making us, dislike each other as Americans even more.
But when you have friends like Chuck Schumer on Capitol Hill, it's pretty hard to get in trouble, isn't it?
It is pretty hard to get in trouble. They're well connected, but it's also hard to hear the warning signs. When you feel like you've got that much protection, you've got that much of a political moat around your company, then you ignore, hey, you know what, maybe Russia's meddling. Then you ignore everything. And then when the you-know-what hits the fan, you start to, retaliate in a way that obviously now we're finding out was really in a very despicable manner. Listen, they've offended everyone along the way, and I think they will continue to until they, and maybe their stock going down, maybe losing members, maybe, the business itself beginning to deteriorate somewhat. Maybe that would be the ultimate wake-up call for them.
Well, Facebook has confirmed that it's ended its relationship with this Washington-based consulting firm, Definers Public Affairs. So we will see where all this goes because we continue to learn a lot more.
More bad news for Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
Anytime the New York Times puts 5 reporters on a story about you, that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing, no.
All right, Charles Payne.
See you later.
Good to see you.
All righty.
Thank you.
Hundreds of illegal immigrants now reaching the U.S. border with Mexico as the immigration crisis continues to grow, posing a major challenge for authorities. We are live in Tijuana next.
Plus, President Trump weighing in on the future of his cabinet, specifically regarding Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. Ari Fleischer has spent some time in the West Wing. He is our headliner this morning. He will join us straight ahead.
And lame duck Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona drawing a line in the sand over the Mueller investigation, putting him at odds with Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
For our national leadership to be weak or irresolute or compromised in any way. But some of us in Washington have seemed strangely incurious about just what the Russian malefactors did to America in 2016.
A Fox News alert, and a few hundred Central American migrants have arrived at the U.S. southern border in Tijuana. 3 different caravans making their way through Mexico right now. William Lajeunesse is live from Tijuana, Mexico. William?
Well, John, this is where the next chapter begins for the caravan. There are several hundred people who've already arrived here in Tijuana, which, of course, was their destination. The goal, of course, is the United States, and the border is right over here. Police are expecting about another 900 migrants coming here in the next hour or so, and a total of 2,000 today. Now, this obviously is the border right here with the United States. This is the primary fence. There's a secondary fence over there. This is an area called Friendship Park. Now, there was a fight here last night. The local Mexicans are not happy that they're here. This is actually a pretty nice neighborhood between the Hondurans and the Mexicans. Police made no attempt to apparently break that up. Also want to tell you, John, I did speak to a Border Patrol source earlier today who said about a dozen caravan migrants have already been arrested. A small contingent down here near the beach, and also a larger group up in the mountains east of Otay Mesa near Tecate. Now, the United States message has been consistent all along, trying to deter the caravan, saying don't come, you'll be arrested or apprehended, or you'll have to go through the port of entry. Here's the Border Sector Chief Rodney Scott.
Mexico has already offered asylum to these individuals. Your asylum claim here, unless it's fear from Mexico, is not going to probably go well. You will be arrested and you will be prosecuted. You will ultimately be returned to your country.
So here's the scene yesterday, basically individuals celebrating the fact that they hit here, also reaching Tijuana their goal, but also goading agents from the top of that fence. And I expect we will see that scene played out many times over the next weeks or months. Now, Tijuana residents are organizing a protest of their own, telling these people how they want them to behave. And they don't want them to close the port of entry because, of course, that's very important. John, I'll also tell you that already the shelters here in Tijuana are overflowing with people. 2,500 immigrants are already here waiting in line trying to get into the United States. So all these people got to get in that queue. Of course, they're going to grow frustrated and impatient. They're going to try crossing illegally. And that's why, of course, the U.S. has brought in the military to assist the Border Patrol. John?
William Lajeunesse, who's been tracking that caravan for us for a long time now. William, thank you.
Heading over to the White House now, President Trump weighing in on speculation surrounding his cabinet, saying he will make a decision about Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen very soon. Time to bring in our headliner, Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary and a Fox News contributor, joins us live in studio. Great to have you here, Ari. Good morning. All right, so first up, the shakeup, the changes that you're seeing at the White House, what you're hearing from the president on this, your thoughts?
Well, this is a very traditional thing that presidents do. Donald Trump does it a little bit, not same traditionally.
Nor does he anything.
Well, that's right. He has a very outsider approach, and I've never faulted that outsider's approach. That's why he was elected. My only advice is, as you're going to make legitimate changes, have the person that you're going to newly nominate ready the same day that you announce somebody is leaving. It's cleaner that way. It shows forethought. It doesn't just show a vacancy. The problem in Washington, when you have a vacancy, when you have a void, it gets filled with negativism and attacks.
Right.
So have your replacement ready the day you announce who's leaving.
Because when there's blood in the water, the sharks start to circle, right?
Well, there's that. And look what happened with Attorney General Sessions. We have an acting Attorney General, highly controversial. There's nobody yet known, ready. Think about how differently that could have been if he said, Sessions is leaving, here's who's replacing him. And then we're talking about the qualifications of the new replacement. Instead, we're in this abyss about whether the acting Attorney General is legal or not.
Well, the president said this in an interview to the Daily Caller on White House changes. I'm looking at things. I haven't made a decision yet. I will be making a decision on Homeland shortly. I have not made decisions yet. I will be making changes on various things, which sort of leaves the door open to possibly more changes than just this.
And he's entitled to that. Presidents should get the team that surrounds them. And it should be a team of outsiders. It should be a team of people who do it Donald Trump's way, who give the president support, who let the president know they've got his back, they are for his policies, and that's what they're going to do. He deserves that. He was elected. He gets his team, even if establishment people don't like it. But when he makes the changes, I hope they're well thought through, and whoever comes in next has a good reputation.
But his complaint, it goes back to the media and the way the media covers those changes, because he tweeted this morning on these various reports. The White House is running very smoothly, and the results for our nation are obviously very good. We are the envy of the world. But anytime I even think about making changes, the fake news media, capitalized, goes crazy, always seeking to make us look as bad as possible. Very dishonest.
Well, let me make a couple points. Number one, most American people have never heard of anybody in the cabinet. They don't know their names. They don't know the names of the White House chief of staff, let alone the deputy national security advisor. What the American people know is the results. So Donald Trump's 100% right about results are what matters the most. Having said that, having worked in the White House, it's very important to have a good team around you and not to have chaos. And I don't think that this has been an unchaotic White House.
We do know the name of the chief of staff. It's John Kelly. Kirstjen Nielsen, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, got her job in part because she had been his right hand, and now there are rumors that he may be on his way out.
Yeah, those rumors have been around for a long time, haven't they? And they haven't been true. So we'll see. But if the president decides to make a change, that's his prerogative. My only point is be thoughtful about your changes so you don't leave that vacuum, you don't leave the void. For example, when Donald Rumsfeld was fired the day after the 2006 midterm by George W. Bush, Bush also announced Robert Gates as the new Secretary of Defense the same day. It was crisp, it was clean, it was forward-looking.
But isn't that how the word gets out to that somebody has a short lease on life because all of a sudden there's a job search for the replacement?
Well, in that instance with Bush and Rumsfeld and Gates, no. I mean, that was quiet behind the scenes. Gates was teed up. He was ready. It was announced. Clearly, we've always been reading since President Trump got elected about who's next. And everybody seems to be next. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes not.
Care to weigh in on this Deputy National Security Advisor reassigned after the First Lady's office publicly called for her ouster from the White House, and this feud that we are learning about between the First Lady and her?
Yeah, number one, if you work at the White House, you don't quarrel with the First Lady. I mean, it's just a rule. You should be smarter than that. And if you do have a difference, handle your difference with respect. And something clearly went wrong here. But I've never seen a situation where the First Lady had to issue a statement. That's what stuns me. The power of the First Lady is the relationship with the First Man. You tell the President there's something wrong here, and the President takes action. What's stunning to me is action wasn't taken, and so she had to issue a press statement. I've never seen that before.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that whatever complaint she was making about the Deputy National Security Advisor was ignored. And so she felt she had to go around and go public to get her way. That's remarkable.
All right, with just a few seconds left, final thoughts on this Florida recount deadline this afternoon.
Yeah, you know, it looks by all estimates that Governor Scott is going to become Senator Scott. But close elections are nasty things in every direction, and that's math. Whatever problems they have, and they have many, particularly in Broward with incompetence, it just feeds cynicism.
Ari Fleischer, come back soon. It's always great to have you. Thank you.
So there's a standoff in the Senate after Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocks a vote to protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller from being fired. Lame duck Senator Jeff Flake saying he will not support any nominees until that bill he wants hits the floor. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has more from Washington. Catherine?
Well, that's right, John, and good morning. Outgoing Republican Senator Jeff Flake is threatening to oppose the president's judicial nominees until bipartisan legislation protecting the special counsel Robert Mueller is brought to the full Senate for a vote.
The improper installation of an acting attorney general who has not been subject to confirmation by this body. The president now has this investigation in his sights, and we all know it.
This comes after the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel found that the president's decision to bypass Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and promote Matt Whitaker as acting attorney general is constitutional, lawful, and consistent with past presidential appointments. Yesterday, the Senate Majority Leader blocked bipartisan legislation to protect the special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation.
We want to make sure that the acting attorney general does not interfere with the Mueller investigation, and we believe our Republican colleagues will join us.
We know how the president feels about the Mueller investigation, but he's never said he wants to shut it down. I've never heard anybody down there say they want to shut it down. I think it's in no danger, and so I don't think any legislation is necessary.
In a separate development, the outgoing Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Bob Goodlatte, told Fox News he believes the FBI Russia probe, that is the foundation for the special counsel investigation, began earlier than most people assume based on evidence and witness interviews. Goodlatte says he believes it began in the spring of 2016 before Trump became the party nominee, and that finding significantly conflicts with former FBI Director James Comey's public testimony that the FBI officially opened the counterintelligence case in late July of 2016, John.
Catherine Herridge, our Chief Intelligence Correspondent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, a power struggle for the top spot in the House. Nancy Pelosi facing some resistance from insurgents in her own party. 17 Democrats already saying they will not support her. We'll ask Democratic Congressman Debbie Dingell what she thinks about all that.
Plus, a terrible tragedy as a young American tourist is murdered in Mexico. His parents join us live next on their fight for answers to find out exactly what happened to their son. A young American on vacation in Mexico ends up stabbed to death. 27-year-old Taylor Meyer was traveling with a group of friends in Playa del Carmen. Now his parents say they want more answers and an FBI investigation. Taylor's parents, Chris and Krista Meyer, are with us now. Chris, your son went down there for the most joyous of celebrations, a birthday party with a bunch of friends, right?
Yes, a 30th birthday with some friends that he's developed over the years. There were 14 of them total, including my son, on this trip.
Krista, you and your husband received a phone call from the U.S. consulate in Mexico on Friday. What did they tell you?
They first asked if I was Krista Meyer. I identified myself as yes. Who's calling, please? And they said the U.S. consulate in Mexico. And I just went, no. What? And they explained very quickly to me that they had reason to believe that our son was traveling with a group of others in Playa del Carmen. He had been robbed, and they told me what had been taken from him was his wallet, his shoes, his passport, I don't know, and that he had been stabbed to death.
The two of you are going through the unthinkable as parents. This is what we fear the most, and you're living through the worst. And I know that at first you thought that phone call was a hoax, and then you went forward to confirm what happened. But now you want more answers, and you want the FBI to get involved and investigate. What has your communication been with the American government on this?
Well, our communication has been with the consulate down in Cancun, and we've been trying to get the FBI involved to oversee the investigation. The Mexican government has control, of course, and the FBI has no jurisdiction and have to be allowed to. We're concerned that because the consulate clearly told us that 3 people were involved in killing our son, they've arrested 1 person. And we just want to make sure that, number one, that they solve the crime. But the biggest thing, even above the solving of our son's crime, is to get the word out that we used to go to Mexico all the time at timeshare 10 years ago. It's changed. It's not the same place it used to be. And, you know, for parents like us, we don't want to see anybody else go through this pain and suffering that we've been enduring.
I know that your son took all the precautions that one would expect to take. I mean, they had rented a house in a gated community. He had checked in with the State Department, right? He did all the right things.
Yes, he did.
He gave us his one of his traveling companions' name and cell phone number so we could reach him. He gave us a copy of his passport.
And the whole itinerary.
He filled out a daily itinerary of what they were going to do each day. So we did everything right, and he ended up being murdered. It was horrible.
One of your concerns, I know, is that the Mexican government is afraid. If that's the case, why aren't they going to be more forthcoming with exactly what did happen? Because you have a lot of questions, don't you?
Well, yes, I know that if a foreign national or whatever would have been vacationing in Newport Beach here, which is also a vacation destination, and would have been murdered, that our government or our local police will be solving a crime and the news media would cover it accurately. The local media in the Playa del Carmen area covered this up with some horrible rumors, and which were all fake, and such as saying that our son was Canadian, he was 30 years old, he was transgender, he was traveling with an LGBT group, and one of his friends stabbed and killed him. 100% wrong, and I mean, these are horrific. And to see our son's name trashed, our son was an absolute hero.
Hermosa Beach community, Claremont community, the Denver community, the University of Colorado Boulder community knows none of this was our son.
Krista, I know that you and your husband have said that you want his funeral, which is Saturday, to be a celebration of Taylor's life, and we remember him now. Just your final thoughts before we let you go. I can't imagine how difficult this is.
Thank you so much.
We're eager to get the word out that Taylor was a Christian, a strong Christian. We're members of Purpose Church in Pomona, California. It's a mega church. The pastors there have been wonderful. And the service will be live streamed through their website. But the mega church holds a couple thousand people, and we invite any and all people, the media. We want to get Taylor's story out. And the most impressive thing about our son, are the stories that his friends that he's developed in Hermosa Beach and Denver with UPS where he worked in Arizona. We're learning things. Last night we learned that he saved a person's life.
Chris and Krista, it takes incredible strength to do what you both are doing. Our hearts are with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. New twist in the story of a New Jersey couple who raised thousands of dollars for a homeless man. Turns out the three of them may have made the entire thing up. Jackie Heinrich is live in the newsroom with this. Jackie?
Sandra, according to a complaint the local Philadelphia NBC affiliate obtained, the couple conspired with that homeless man so that all three could defraud donors and make a profit, even preventing the donors from getting information about the true nature of their story. It all stems from a viral Good Samaritan tale that prompted a GoFundMe campaign garnering more than $400,000 in donations. Last fall, Kate McClure and her boyfriend, Mark D'Amico, shared the story of Johnny Bobbitt Jr., a homeless Marine veteran who gave his last dollar to Kate when she was stranded on a Philadelphia freeway out of gas. Bobbitt's generosity drew donations from more than 14,000 people. The money was supposed to put a roof over Bobbitt's head, but the relationship turned sour when Bobbitt sued the couple, saying they dipped into his funds, stealing more than half the pot and only giving Bobbitt about $75,000. Initially, the couple's lawyer denied the claims, saying they were holding on to the cash for Bobbitt to ensure he didn't spend it on drugs. But in September, police raided the couple's home and towed away a new BMW from their garage. Now a new twist with a complaint alleging that the three were in it together from the get-go. Police are expected to hold a press conference in New Jersey at 2 p.m. A lawyer for McClure and D'Amico declined to comment this morning. Sandra?
All right, Jackie Heinrich, thank you.
The results of machine recounts due just a few hours from now in the Florida Senate and governor's races. Brett Baer joins us to weigh in next.